I believe in free speech, but people should behave themselves. I believe in free speech, but we shouldn't upset anybody. I believe in free speech, but let's not go too far. The point about it is the moment you limit free speech, it's not free speech. The point about it is that it's free.
Well said, and we'd like the Pope to actually watch that 1,000 times and then say sorry about what he said. Let's move on. Salman Rushdie, a great man and a very brave man too. And speaking of brave men and great men, Mark Steyn. His latest book, The Undocumented Mark Steyn, buy hundreds of copies right now, because if you don't, we'll find out. And I don't think it means that he's undocumented. He still has his passport, but for how long? Who knows? It's a changing world. Common sense champion Mark Steyn joins us now. You do have your passport still?
Oh, yes.
Which one is it? Yeah.
I am one. I'm proud to say I was born one of Her Canadian Majesty's loyal subjects, and I share the sentiments of Sir John A. Macdonald.
Good man. I completely agree. Rushdie was, I suppose, the first international victim. He was so well known. When he was attacked and threatened with death for merely writing a novel. At that time, there were many people, it was some years ago now, who said, well, he should have known better. He shouldn't have provoked people.
Right.
We still haven't learnt the lesson, have we?
No, and he's absolutely right when he says, all those fellas, I'm in favour of free speech, but I'm in favour of free speech, but I'm in favour. I've heard all the buts since I got into trouble with the Human Rights Commissions here. A few years back. And the point is that free speech is the stuff after the but. It's for the stuff that's insensitive. It's the stuff that's offensive. It's the stuff that you think is revolting. You don't need free speech for the Barney the dinosaur approved, regulated opinions within polite bounds. And sometimes the stuff after the but is what gets things changed. I mean, it's amazing to me, for example, in the United States, south of the border, where gay groups beat up on Billy Crystal for saying something the other day. Once upon a time, it was because everybody thought the gay stuff was after the but. That moved the meter on that. It was because the race stuff was after the but. It was because the women's rights stuff was after the but. It's if you can't say the stuff that's after the but, as Salman Rushdie puts it, then there is no free speech. And it's important. Because if you can't say it, all you can do is, like the crazies in Paris, is get out your scimitar and shout Allahu Akbar and start chopping heads off. Free speech is the alternative to Allahu Akbar and chopping people's heads off.
You mentioned Billy Crystal, who is very liberal, bright guy, but has always been very much on the side of the gay community. All he said was, there's so much gay sex on TV.
Right.
He then had to qualify. I meant there's too much sex in general on TV.
Right.
Benedict Cumberbatch, who again is very liberal, he used the word coloured. It was anachronistic. He didn't mean anything, but he had to grovel. I mean, just say that was a stupid thing, move on. But it's the grovelling, having to be accepted by people whose acceptance really should be irrelevant to any right-thinking person.
Well, and the grovelling is actually more offensive. I think Billy Crystal said something like, the headline, at any rate, I'm not sure if his exact quote was, Billy Crystal, I'm sick of having gay sex shoved in my face. And I'm personally entirely relaxed about having gay sex shoved in my face, but I'm tired of having the big gay enforcers shove compliance down my throat, or the Benedict Cumberbatch thing. People have got to stop. Actually, it's a kind of it's a sort of easy listening version of re-education camp, like they had under Pol Pot in Cambodia. You know, people would say they had bad thoughts, so they'd be taken away, and they'd emerge 2 years later, glassy-eyed, droning the party ideology on state TV. And as I said, this is just like the sort of easy listening, middle-of-the-road version of that, where Billy Crystal or Benedict Cumberbatch emerge glassy-eyed, reciting the party line on sexual identity or race or whatever it is. And we've got to get over that. That actually is far more offensive and it would be good if we could all just say, yeah, I expressed it carelessly. I was on live TV. So what?
Yeah.
It may offend you, but actually doing the whole glassy-eyed thing is actually far more offensive to a free society.
And indeed, there are many gay people who wrote saying, I agree with him. I'm gay, I'm in a long-term relationship. I don't want to see all this stuff on TV. Can't we have more decent TV? I want my kids to be able to watch it. I don't want this on television.
No, and we all know actually what the point he's making. I mean, he backed off it and said he was opposed to everything. You know, whatever it is you're offended by, Billy Crystal's opposed to it. But we know what he meant, that there are kind of vogues in ideology and there are fashions in ideas. And so Hollywood, who are basically, as we saw with the Kim Jong-un business a few weeks ago, are basically a bunch of craven compliant twits. When there's a sort of dinner party consensus on what's cool and groovy, then you get 1,001 things exemplifying that suddenly all at once. And he was basically saying, I'm bored by this current fashion, and he has every